Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our session on understanding your notice of proposed property taxes. My name is Kevin McKeon, and I am the Deputy of Assessment Administration representing the Honorable Mike Twitty in the Pinellas County Property Appraiser's Office. Thank you for joining us. This is a very timely session. We do this around the same time every year. The reason it's timely is next Monday, August 19th, your notice of proposed property taxes will be dropped in the mail. Most of you who live here in Pinellas County, you'll receive it no later than Wednesday. So please look for it. Also, if you want to go on our website, come Monday morning, that notice will be posted on our website, so you can print it yourself even before you get it in the mail. So this is the most important, I can't stress this enough, and I do it in every presentation. This is the most important document you will receive from our office on an annual basis. Yes, you get a tax bill from a tax collector come November, and you got to pay that. That's kind of important. But this gives you a wealth of information about your property and your exemptions, and gives you an opportunity to do something about it prior to you getting your tax bill. So thanks again for joining us, and let's get started. So we're going to start with how property taxes are determined, a quick little tutorial on how your taxes are computed. The Property Appraiser's Office is responsible for valuing your property and each and every parcel of real estate in Pinellas County every January 1 of every year. So January 1, 2024, your property was revalued and your value changed from 2023. That is your market value. That is what we are responsible for determining, your just market value. The rate, you multiply, and value times rate equal taxes. And now we'll get into first market value. There's three values that are going to appear on your trim, and I'll go over each and every one of them. Market value is how much a property would sell for under normal market conditions. Primarily for residential real estate, we use the sales comparison approach to value. We look at sales of similar properties in your area to determine the value of your home. We know everyone's lot size, we know everyone's square footage, and we know every sale that occurs within Pinellas County because a new deed is filed, we know the purchase price, so we can then gather that data in a model and determine the relative value of your particular property. The cost approach is used sometimes on a new construction. You may buy a piece of land and you're putting on a new home. We will then use the cost approach to put that home on the rolls when the time comes and when it's finished. And we use mass appraisal. We're not a fee appraiser. We don't come in and get into your property and value it for mortgage purposes. That's what a fee appraiser does. They come in, they look at your property. Most people don't let us inside their homes. We know their square footage. We know their property. We don't know sometimes what they've done inside your homes, because sometimes you can do things to your home without a permit. If you do something that requires a permit, we know about it. Okay, if you put an addition on, if you put in a swimming pool, we will find out about that. And that's in addition to your value every year, if in fact you have something done to it. So let's get into the three values. Okay, we just talked about market value, right? That's what you could potentially sell your home for. Okay, then there is assessed value. What that means is, let's start off first. If you just bought a home in 2023, as of 1/1/24, you are a new homeowner in the state of Florida, and let's say you moved from another state. That initial year, when you apply, your just market value equals assessed value. By law, we have to value every property at market value if there's a change of ownership. So You have a change of ownership, just market value equals assessed value, year one. And let's say you would then apply for homestead for 2024, which is a homestead exemption, and we'll get into it, of $50,000 off that assessed value. We then take that $50,000, reduce your assessed value by 50 to get the taxable value. That taxable value times your rate, and we'll get into it in examples, is what determines your taxes for the current year. And before I forget, taxes will come out November 1st. They will be mailed. We pay taxes in arrears in the state of Florida. So November 1st, that tax bill is for the calendar year of 24. So if you pay it in November, you get a 4% discount off your taxes, and that discount decreases each month you wait. Okay. So who sets the taxing rates? Everyone and every property has taxing districts that they live in, and certain areas, certain taxing authorities, they create the rate on an annual basis based on their budget needs in each one of those areas. So the city of St. Petersburg has a rate that's different than the city of Largo. That's a rate than the city of Clearwater. Depending on where you live, everybody's going to have a little bit different tax rate. Everybody does get taxed on the county general fund, for instance. That's the same rate for everybody throughout the county. But the differences come in the jurisdiction that you live. To make it even more complicated for our office, we have 58 different taxing authorities. Okay? So there's 24 cities in Pinellas County. Each one of them, and as small as Pinellas County is, we have 24 cities that have a different tax rate. So we accumulate all those rates and make sure that you're getting taxed in the proper jurisdiction based on your address. So what the taxing authorities do, they hold budget meetings to determine how much funding they're going to need to provide the services to their constituents, their taxpayers within their cities every year. They then issue us a rate that they're proposing for the 2024 year, okay? And I'll get into that when we see it, when we see an example of the trim notice. And then they have public budget hearings that each and every citizen can attend and question why they came up with that rate for this particular year. There's an initial hearing, and the hearing dates are on the back of your trim notice, which I will show you later. And then there's a final hearing before the end of September. And the taxes can increase or decrease depending on the tax rates, right? We've come up with the value. We have just, assessed, and taxable. They apply the rates. We're not the ones who determine your taxes. We're the ones who determine your value. So you hear the word bandied about millage rate. And millage rate is basically a unit of measure. 1 mil is $1 of taxes for every $1,000 of taxable value. Okay. Each taxing authority comes up with a millage rate that they're going to apply to your taxable value to determine your overall taxes that you have to pay on an annual basis. Once again, value, taxable value, times rate equal taxes. So taxable value times millage rate equals ad valorem taxes. Okay, there are two taxes that you may have on your trim notice. There's ad valorem, which is Latin for a value related to your property value. Okay, so if you have $100,000 taxable value, 20 mils, that's 2% is 20 mils. If you want to look at it in a percentage, you're going to have a $2,000 tax bill. Okay, if your total millage adds up to over 20 mils or 20 mils. Now, some areas have special assessments, which are called non-ad valorem taxes. Sometimes there are improvements done to certain areas that are paid for by each and every property owner over time, whether it be underground utility, street lighting, solid waste collection, whatever, okay? That's called non-ad valorem. We add that on your notice of proposed property taxes to show you your total tax obligation. We are not our office is not responsible for that tax. Each one of those special assessments has someone to contact if you have questions about it. And I'll show you where that is on the trim notice in a bit. Exemptions. Most everybody knows the most popular exemption, right? That's the homestead exemption. That's the main one you apply for when you first become a property owner in the state of Florida. But there are many other exemptions that are available to the citizens of Pinellas County and the citizens of Florida. Why should you apply? Well, it lowers your property taxes. Number one, in the first year of homestead, if your $50,000 homestead is worth somewhere between $500 and $900 off your property tax bill annually the first year, okay, depending on where you live. The other exemptions that are listed here primarily relate to age. You're over 65, and your income is lower than a certain threshold. Okay, you're entitled to what is called a low-income senior exemption. That gets you an additional exemption off your city millage rate only, just the city you live in. Okay, and each city determines how much that exemption is. There's a widower exemption. If you are a widow or a widower, you automatically get a $5,000 exemption if you apply on an annual basis on top of your homestead exemption. There are disability exemptions, both for veterans and certain other disabled people who are non-veterans. They all have certain requirements, and there is a total and permanent disability exemption available for veterans and disabled persons meeting certain thresholds. And deployed service members, if you own a home in Pinellas County and you are deployed on a certain mission as prescribed by the state of Florida for any time during a particular year, you can get that percentage of your property taxes taken off your current year bill. So if you have any questions regarding any exemptions, please feel free to call our office. We're more than happy to help you and see if you can qualify for any of these exemptions. Okay, the homestead exemption. Sometimes people don't understand. All they hear is a $50,000 homestead exemption, but it's basically in two different pieces. The first $25,000 is off the value of your home between 0 and 25. And again, that's assessed value, okay? There is no exemption for the value between 25 and 50, and the second 25 is an exemption for the value between 50 and 75. Anything over 75, there is no exemption. That second 25 there in the yellow, or burnt orange maybe, if you're watching online, does not apply to school taxes. When that second 25 was instituted back in 2008, they didn't want to hurt the amount of taxes available for school. So that is not an exemption for school taxes. And you'll see that on your trim notice of proposed property taxes as well. A lot of people hear about Save Our Homes. Now, what does that mean? And I'll get into it in a bit. Okay. Save Our Homes is once you establish homestead exemption in the state of Florida. Let's say your first year was 2024. Every year thereafter, your assessed value, remember, we got to give you a new market value every year, but your assessed value can only go up by a maximum of 3%. So if your market value went up 10, your assessed value, which is what you're taxed on before exemptions, can only go up a maximum of 3%. Actually, it's 3% or consumer price index, whichever is lower. So that's why I say the maximum of 3. The last 3 years have been 3%. More than likely, it's going to be 3% again for 2025. But that is the beauty of the homestead exemption. As a longtime Florida resident, you can understand if somebody homesteaded a home in the 90s, okay, and the market value has skyrocketed, they have a very low assessed value for tax purposes. They're not paying taxes on market value. They're paying taxes on assessed, less exemptions, or taxable value. Here's a really good example. This still is a hot neighborhood in St. Petersburg. There are 2 homes right next to one another. Same square footage, same lot size. Okay? So relatively the same market value. Okay? The home on the right was bought in 1993. This is a long-time St. Petersburg homesteader, been in the home for over 30 years. Okay? Her 2023 taxes were $777 because her assessed value was low compared to her market value. So she, as a longtime homesteader, was rewarded because a lot of years that 3% wasn't 3%. It was 2, it was 1, it was 1.5. So market continues to rise. Her assessed value is down here. She's not paying taxes on that difference. Contrast it with the house on the left. They bought that in 2020. 2021, what happens? Change of ownership. Just value equals assessed value. Okay, so let's say they paid, I don't know what they paid for the home, $400,000. We valued it at $350,000, okay, or whatever. Boom, look at their 2023 taxes, $4,700. Almost 6 times more than the same exact property next door. Is that fair? We can debate that all day long. Okay, but that is Florida law. Those are the statutes. So the benefit of having homestead on a property is a long-term benefit, and that difference between just and assessed is a lot more valuable over time than that $50,000 homestead exemption. They both have homestead exemption on it. Okay, they both have that $50,000 exemption, but the long-time homesteader is rewarded. Now, if that one on the right sells in 2024, the new owner is going to look at taxes higher than the one on the left. Because market value has gone up, it's going to sell for more than they bought the one on the left in 2020. Yes, sir.
You have any questions now?
I'll take a question now.
A comment, actually. We bought a house last September 15th. When we were looking for homes, for the better part of 2 years with real estate agents. Almost no real estate agent told us that. I found it out on my own. One of my arguments in Florida, we're from Virginia, it would never happen up there. Real estate agents do not tell you. They show you a sheet. They show you a sales sheet that says 777. They don't tell you when you buy this house, your tax would be $4,700.
Okay.
So I questioned a couple of real estate agents, said, "Oh yeah, you're right," but they don't say it up front. I think it's illegal. It's clearly unethical.
Okay.
And something should be done.
All right, I will address that question in a lot of ways. Okay. The question on the floor here, in case nobody heard it here, is that one of our people here live with us bought a home in 23, and we're not informed by the real estate agent that in 24 their property goes to market value and taxes could substantially increase, just like this example, right? They could go up 5 or 6 times.
thousands of people.
Okay, so his complaint was, why don't the real estate agents tell us that? Well, we have seminars all the time, okay, for real estate agents. This is a well-known fact of what happens the year after you buy a home. This is not a secret to anyone. We have a tax estimator on our website. You can go to our website, put in a property that you're interested in, what you're going to pay for it. It will tell you the taxes for the next year after you cross that January 1. We have all kinds of articles on our website, buying a home, selling a home, buyer beware. Here's what happens. We put it in our informational supplement that's going to be attached to your trim notice. So if you bought in 2024, be prepared. Those taxes in 25 are going to be a lot different than the tax bill you're going to get in 2024. Okay? Mr. Twitty is very, very aware that this is a problem. And he is a member of the Property Appraisers Association of Florida with all 67 counties. They're trying to do something about this. It's a consumer protection issue more than anything. Okay? We have tried and will continue to try to get the legislature to pass something that will make sure there will be a disclosure on Zillow, on multiple listing services, on any other on what next door, whatever there is, to that will let the new owner know that when you buy this home, this will be your property taxes next year. It's a huge pain threshold because not only do realtors not pay attention to it, some mortgage lenders don't pay attention to it either. They want you to qualify with that lower taxes, and then you get a letter in January that says, oh, by the way, your escrow for taxes was short. And we got to double it because we need to make sure you have enough for this current year so you could have an astronomical increase in your monthly mortgage payment. So anyone out there buying a home, take that into account. If you should tell your mortgage lender, look, I want you to qualify me because you're going to get hit with it anyway. So it's important, and it's a great question. It's the biggest pain threshold we face every year. We're doing everything we can to do something about it. Trust me, because it is not fair. It's not right. Okay, thank you, sir. Great question. Okay, the history of Save Our Homes. Lee County Property Appraiser back in 1992. What was happening before 1992? Property values were skyrocketing. Maybe not like they were in the last 3 years here, but they were skyrocketing. So Florida residents were getting taxed out of their homes. He said, look, we need to do something about it. So that's when we instituted the Save Our Homes Amendment, which as a homestead property, once you're homesteaded, every year thereafter, your assessed value, okay, cannot increase any more than 3% annually. It's CPI or 3%, whichever is less. So that home that we just had on the previous slide, that's why they're only paying $777 in taxes, okay, because they had, now, assessed market value has its ups and downs, right? Assessed value can never exceed market. Sometimes they come back down and meet each other. But assessed can't go higher because of that 3%. It rides with market and stays below market. But sometimes, and we may face these days in the future, we faced it in 07 to 2012, market value in the great real estate crash days was going this way. Assessed value was to here and going this way, and people were going, why are we paying more taxes? My market value is going down. Well, you weren't paying taxes on market value. You were paying taxes on your assessed value that was increasing a little bit every year. And here's an example of CPI over the last 12 years. Okay, it's been high, as we all know. Inflation has been high the last 3 years. Okay, but look at the years from 13 to 21. CPI was well below 3%. So your assessed value was only going up in some years by 0.7%, even in an area where market value was rising. So it was a huge benefit to have homestead. Okay. Now, this slide introduces the non-homestead cap. Back in 2008, the same thing was happening to non-homesteaded properties and commercial properties who can't qualify for homestead because they're not a single family. You can't homestead a restaurant. Okay. So they were getting taxed out of their business, right? Because property values rose dramatically between 2002 and 2007. So the state looked at this again and said, maybe we should put a cap on non-homestead real estate. And they instituted the 10% cap. Okay. Again, assessed value can only go up by 10% if market value rises more than that. Okay. So that is a protection for the non-homesteader. Not as great as the homesteader because that's a maximum of 3, but it still is a bit of a protection. And remember, all caps reset on January 1 on transfer of a property. That doesn't necessarily mean a sale. Let's say you decide that you want to give your house to your child. And now they're a brand new owner. Guess what? Their cap resets. Your child cannot inherit your cap reset. Okay, they are a new owner as of January 1. Even if you will it to them, they cannot inherit your cap. Okay. So here's an example of how Save Our Homes works. This is a quick and dirty example. We got market value going up by 5%, assessed value going up by 3%. You start to develop that Save Our Homes benefit. Okay. And over a 7-year period, if that same 5 and 3 hold true, all of a sudden you have the difference between 402 and 358, or roughly $44,000 in our Save Our Homes benefit. You're not paying tax on that value because that 358 is your assessed value, okay, less your homestead to become taxable value. So you're building up that difference over time, that whoever buys your home, market value is going to equal assess the January 1 after they buy it. Okay, a little bit about the non-homestead cap. We just touched on it a bit. This is called the 10% cap. Okay, so people who have rental properties, vacation homes, vacant land, commercial property. Now, the kicker with the 10% cap, they did the same thing when the legislature instituted it. They didn't want that 10% cap to hurt school taxes. So the school millage rates, okay, that 10% cap does not apply to school taxes. You are taxed at the full market value if you're not a non-homesteaded property, okay? So, and school taxes, if you look at your trim notice when you get it, are about 1/3 of your taxes. So it's still pretty significant, a significant piece of your tax bill. Okay. The cap will remain year over year, providing. Okay. I want to stress this too because this has become very contentious in the last 3 or 4 years. Not contentious. It's just the fact that people aren't very happy about it. Okay, you keep the cap as long as ownership does not change. Here's the next one. Homestead exemption is not applied for. If you have a 10% cap property and you have that difference between just and assessed, especially in the last 3 years, once you apply for homestead, you lose it. Again, state law. Okay, so sometimes you're better off not having homestead because your taxes could be less by keeping your 10% cap. We have 10% caps that approach $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. So do you think a $50,000 exemption is going to produce less taxes than that $500,000 lost? It doesn't. If you're in that situation, I urge you to call our office. We will give you an analysis of homestead versus non-homestead. Happy to provide it to you. And then you can make your decision whether you want to continue homesteading in 24 or take it off and wait till a future year. Okay, understanding the recapture rule. We use a word called recapture, and all that means is in periods of rising market prices, like is here between year 1, 2, and 3, you're developing that big difference between just and assessed, right? As market values come back down, your market value is less. Your assessed is still rising by that CPI or 3%. So your Save Our Homes benefit is going down. Okay, you're still not paying taxes on it. That's what we refer to as recapture. So if you have a little bit lower market, but you see your taxes are going up, say, how could that happen? Well, you're not paying taxes on that differential to begin with if you're a homesteaded property. Okay, so that's called recapture. And if market comes down to where your assessed value is, assessed can never exceed market. They ride together. Okay. Okay, now we get into yes, sir, I got a question online.
Two homes, sell your homesteaded home, and want to transfer to your second home. Wow, somebody else just got a comment too. And want to transfer to the second home, which you still own and then will live in. Okay,
so I'm going to repeat the question in case everybody didn't hear it. You own a home that's homesteaded in Pinellas County. You also own another home that's non-homesteaded. You decide to sell the homesteaded home and apply for homestead on the non-homesteaded home. Okay? You have to apply, first of all, number one. If you sell your homesteaded home and you don't apply on the new one, we don't know who you are until you homestead a property. We have a name and we have an owner's name and a deed that says you own it. We don't know that you had a previous homestead. You have to apply. It doesn't transfer. We hear this all the time. My real estate agent told me my homestead exemption transfers. It doesn't transfer. My title company told me, oh, we'll take care of it. No, you have to apply for homestead. So this is a concept that I was describing to you earlier. It's called portability, okay? And people have heard that and they wonder, well, what is that? Okay, and let me go back to this slide right here, okay? You see there's, in year 7, let's say you sell that home, okay? You have $43,800 of difference between your just and assessed. You can take that with you to your next homesteaded home. That's called portability, okay? So if you apply on a new home, okay, and the just value, the January 1, after you apply, is equal to or greater than this home you sold, you get the full $43,000, reducing your assessed value. You take it with you, okay? But you have to apply for homestead on the second home. And I hope I'm answering the question of the person online. Okay? That difference in your current homesteaded home that existed in the year you sold, okay, you get to take with you to your other home once you apply for homestead. Now, if you bought a home that's less in value, let's say you bought a home that's half of this $400,000 value, you only get half of the $43,000. It's a formula. Just value of new over just value of old times that $43,000 tells you your portability. If it's greater, you get the full thing. If it's less, you get a pro rata portion of it, subject to a $500,000 cap. Now that sounds like a lot, but there are a lot of properties in Pinellas County. Longtime homesteaders have more than $500,000 difference between just and assessed. They can only take $500,000 with them when they homestead a new home anywhere in the state of Florida. It's not just Pinellas County. You can move from one county to another. Every county treats portability the same.
How much time do you have?
Good question.
You buy it?
Good question. Great question. You have 3 January 1s to homestead that new home. And I will, the first January 1 is a January 1 in the year you sold. Okay, so let's say you sold in 2023, okay? January 1, 23 is the first January 1, 24 is the second, 25 is the third. You have to homestead your property, own and occupy by 1/1/26, or you lose your portability.
So you have 3
January 1s, because you could sell at the end of that first year. So you only have 2 years at that point. Okay, it used to only be 2 January 1s, which caused a lot of problems, but your property appraiser, Mr. Twitty, championed a cause that was on the ballot in the state of Florida and got that changed to 3 years. Because what was happening is people would sell their home in December, okay? They had till the next December to own and occupy the next home and qualify for homestead. They only had 1 year. It was 2 January 1s, but only 1 year. They bought a condo pre-construction. Well, guess what? The condo wasn't done. They could not occupy it.
Yeah.
By that second January 1, they lost their portability.
Sure.
So now it's been expanded for exactly those situations. So it's 3 January 1s, not 2. Okay. Yes.
And we sold and bought another one in Tierra Verde. We sold that one and bought another one in Tierra Verde in September, this past September 2020.
Okay.
How do we find, I thought that we had done the portable. How do we find out if that actually happened?
Okay, so question from the floor here. They sold a home in St. Pete and bought another home in St. Pete in 23. When did you sell the home? Also in 23? Okay, so hopefully you applied for portability. If you didn't, not a problem. Okay, and if you did it online, did you apply online? Okay, you did here. So if they knew that you were properly homesteaded, they should have. But after this session, please go up to the front counter here and they can give you your values to make sure you got your portability. Okay, because it's not too late for that. I mean, if that's something that you missed out, there is the concept of delayed port if you forget, but that gets a little crazy, so I'm not going to go into that. But yes, you should have. If you didn't, we'll take care of it today. Okay, and anybody else out there who doesn't think they applied for portability, I'll show you where you can find this on your notice of proposed property taxes, my favorite document of all time right here. Okay, this is what it looks like. I don't know if you people are familiar with it, but this is called your notice of proposed property taxes. Upper right-hand corner, this is a required disclosure. Do not pay, this is not a bill. Well, guess what most people do with it when they get it? They walk it to the trash can and don't look at it at all. And then they complain that, oh, you didn't tell us that we didn't have homestead. Again, this is the most important document you will get from our office for a variety of reasons. There could be an error on it. Hopefully there isn't. It's amazing that we produce about 430,000 of these, 450,000 of these that get mailed out every August. And every number in every box has a meaning. And so it's a very informative document, and I'll go through each section here. Top section, okay? It's got your parcel number. It's got your name and mailing address. On the right side, it's got your taxing district, okay? Whatever city you live in, or maybe it's unincorporated Pinellas. It's got your site address, the address of the parcel. Sometimes your mailing address is different than the site address, especially in a non-homesteaded property, okay? It's got your legal description. A bit of a notification here. We only have room in the name box, that blue box, for 2 names. You may have 5 names as owners on that property. rest assured, all those names are in our records as owners. But if you want to double check, you can call us and we can let you know. But we only have enough room to print 2. Same thing with the legal description. We have some legal descriptions that are about this long. Okay, we can only fit so many lines on this particular notice. Now, this is a state requirement. Everybody in the state of Florida has to get a trim notice with regard to their property. Okay, now, each one of them looks different depending on the county you live in. Okay, but they all have somewhat of the same disclosures. This section right here, remember we talked earlier? Market value, assessed value, taxable value. Okay, you look at the white, that's last year. Okay, so the home you bought, the folks who are here live in 2023, those are last year's taxes. Have nothing to do with your homestead in 2024, right? Because the cap was reset. So those values, taxable value, is what drops down to the next section, and I'll show you where it drops down. This year's value in the blue, okay, is what determines your 2024 taxes. Again, those taxable value numbers in that box is what drops down into the next section. And here's the next section. It looks, oh my God, look at all these numbers. It's crazy. Okay? Column 1 is last year. Your taxable value from last year, your tax millage rate from last year, taxable value times the millage rate is the taxes per jurisdiction, all adding up to the bottom, total ad valorem taxes. Now you can see there's total non-ad valorem. This doesn't have non-ad valorem, but it will add them together if there is non-ad valorem. Column 2, again, a requirement from the state of Florida. The most confusing column in the history of the world. This is called the rollback rate. Okay, again, it's taking in the first section taxable value from 2024, those are your new taxable values from 2024, times a millage rate. That millage rate represents, and it's required by every taxing authority, if your taxing authority were to collect the same tax dollars as the year before, even though values rose, right? If they were to collect the same tax dollars as the year before, with plus new construction, okay, new construction are new tax dollars, right? As the condo didn't exist, okay, those are new tax dollars. So that would be the rate they would charge you. Well, typically, the taxing authorities don't roll back to the full rollback rate. Sometimes they'll reduce their millage rate from the year before, but they will not roll back. So it's a required disclosure. I ask you that it's not really relevant to what your taxes are going to be. The relevancy is in column 3, the yellow column that's highlighted. Those are your most likely taxes, because it's taking value times the proposed rate that each taxing authority approved for 2024 to be put into this trim notice, okay? Could your taxes be different when you get your tax bill? Absolutely they could, but highly likely they would be lower, because in their budget meetings, they may lower their millage rate, and that'll be their final millage rate that they determine that we will put into our system and submit to the tax collector to get you a tax bill come November 1st. Okay, so this is your most likely taxes. Pay attention to the taxes in the yellow column. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir. The millage rate that was approved is a proposed millage rate. That's what they initially proposed when they went to their county commission, when they went to their city, their city commission to say, this is the rate we need, these are the tax dollars that's proposed. However, it's not unusual that in their next two budget meetings, they make a determination that, you know what, we're going to lower it a little bit. They heard from their citizens, or they just decided that it's the right thing to do. Okay, but highly likely that this will be your taxes. I've been with the property appraiser's office now for, this is my 8th notice of proposed property tax season. I've never seen a millage rate go up from proposed. They always go down. Okay, the bottom section, another important section that you need to pay attention to. Okay? Applied assessment reduction and exemptions. See that Save Our Homes cap? All it is, this is a homesteaded property. That's telling you how much Save Our Homes cap you have. Okay, and if the number should coincide with the difference between market and assessed. Okay, in this section, market less assessed, that's your Save Our Homes cap. You can see the market value of this property, although this is just an example, jumped up almost $42,000 in 1 year. Okay, were there any more taxes? No. You look at assessed value, they only went up by 3%. So they're building up that Save Our Homes cap that they're not being taxed on. Okay, and then if you see taxable value less than assessed value, and in this case you see it here, you have exemptions. Okay, if taxable value equals assessed value, and for people out there who thought they have homestead, if you see your trim notice and taxable value equals assessed value, you don't have homestead. Okay,
I'm confused on the last two columns. You have assessed value, cap value, let's say 103,455. You see that on the right?
Yes, sir.
Now, don't you take 50,000 off that to get to the taxable value?
You take 50 unless you have more exemptions.
Ah,
You could have more exemptions than just the 50,000, and now all your exemptions.
be less than 50,000 if you had more than the 50,000 exemption.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Correct. And so once again, if you get your notice of proposed property taxes and assessed equals taxable, you have no exemptions. You have until September 13th of this year to apply for those exemptions. You still have time. It says it on the trim notice. It says it in the supplement. Please read it. We want you to get that exemption that you're entitled to if for 2024. Yes, sir.
Why am I looking at that incorrectly?
Okay. Well, what's the difference between, see, there's county, school, and municipality. Okay, there's 3 different exemptions in effect. The school tax, guess what? Remember I told you that second 25 is not, so that's why it's $25,000 higher than the 52. Okay? It's exactly $25,000 higher than the 52. It go to 52 to 77. Okay, then why is municipality, it's just a good example, less than all the others? Well, they must have a senior exemption, okay, that further reduces it only for municipal taxes. Now, if you can read this, you will see all those numbers on column 2, first column, taxable value. You see the 52, then you see the 77 for school taxes only, right? Applied to the millage rate. And then you go down to Tarpon Springs, you see 27,955, okay? In that first column under column 2, taxable value. That's a further reduction for the city millage for a senior exemption. A lot of people say, I didn't get my senior exemption. Look at the taxable value within your jurisdiction. And then down below, you'll see on the exemption side, they have homestead. And why do we break it out? First homestead, additional homestead. That additional homestead's not an exemption for school taxes. So we have 25, limited income senior. There you go. 25, and they also have a widower exemption for 500. That's now 5,000, by the way. This is an old trim notice. All widower exemptions are 5,000 now.
How was fine? Is there
Over 65, so for 24, if you want to qualify, you had to turn 65, one of the homesteaders, not both, in 2023. So you had to be 65 as of January 1, and your income, if you file a tax return, your adjusted gross income had to be 36,614 or less. Now that sounds low, but some people's Social Security isn't taxed. So it's your AGI, okay? Or your total household income is less than that if you don't file a tax return. And again, it's an exemption off of the municipality millage, in this case, Tarpon Springs. How are we doing on time, Kyle? Okay. All right, the back of the notice. This is where all your budget hearings are. This will, each one of these taxing districts has a budget hearing. It will have a phone number, it will have a date and time, and it will have an address. So each and every taxpayer can go to these budget hearings and talk to their city commission or county commission and city council or county commission and voice their approval or disapproval on the taxes that they're charging you. Okay. Next section, if you have a non-ad valorem tax, this example did not. This will have a phone number that you can contact and find out about it. Our office is not responsible for non-ad valorem taxes. We put it on the trim notice as a courtesy, but we give you the information to where you can contact and find out about it. Exemptions are not exemptions for non-ad valorem taxes. There are only exemptions for ad valorem taxes, and that's every exemption. And then the bottom of the back explains each of the sections that I just walked to. Column 1, column 2, column 3. Again, that yellow on the first page, those are your most likely taxes.
if your taxes are escrowed for your mortgage payment, then that automatically happens.
Automatically gets paid. Your mortgage lender has already contacted the tax collector. They get a notice of your tax bill. They pay it in November. So you get the full 4%. Okay. And if you pay off your mortgage, we get calls all the time. I just paid off my mortgage. Am I still going to get a tax bill? Yes, you are, but now you're responsible for paying it because you no longer have a mortgage. I want to go back for a second, if I could, to the first page. Right here. The yellow in the bottom, this is very important. If you feel that the value we put on your property is too high or too low, if you want more portability, you have until September 13th to file what is called a VAB petition. VAB stands for Value Adjustment Board. You as a citizen, just like you can attend the budget meetings, you can call our office and say, I think the value you put on my property is too high. And you can talk to our appraiser. During this whole process, please call. We will tell you who your appraiser is. You can talk to the appraiser responsible for your area. They will discuss with you why we came up with the value that we did. You may still object to it. Well, you can file a petition with the clerk of the court for $15, okay, and come in with your evidence as to why your value is better than the one we put on it. You will have a hearing, very informal, in front of an appraiser if it's a value question. Typically, if it's a commercial property, it's a commercial appraiser. In the fee world, this is an appraiser that is independent of us and independent of you. Okay, this is your time to present your case, we present ours, and that magistrate, that VAB magistrate, that appraiser magistrate makes a determination whether we're right or you're right, or may come somewhere in the middle. But you have a right, And if you believe you should have qualified for an exemption that we denied, you can do the same thing, but it's in front of an attorney, because most exemptions are a matter of law, whether you qualify or not. It has nothing to do with value. So we're interpreting the statutes one way. You may think we interpreted it wrong. So you can go file the same VAB petition and talk about the exemptions with regard to that. Very important. These need to be filed by September 13th as well. And you can still be eligible for exemptions that you're not entitled to. If that box shows 0 in 2024, you have until September 13th to file for exemptions. You can still get them for 2024. September 14th, which is a Saturday, you're too late. State statute does not allow us to accept anything after September 13th, because we have to prepare the roll for the tax collector to get you a tax bill. Okay. Let's see here. You can go right on our website come Monday morning and pull up your trim notice if you want to. You can print it. You're going to get the same thing Tuesday or Wednesday. You can always wait for snail mail, but it will be, and it's right under tools, trim notice, click it, print it. www.pcpao.gov.
And there's a search where you type in your address, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You go to our website, type in your address, type in your parcel number, type in your name. You can search by various ways, find your parcel, and then you can produce your own trim notice. Good question. Thank you. Informational supplement. We do this every year. This is in the mailing with your trim notice. Again, reminding you, please file for exemptions if you haven't so far. If you see that there are no numbers in that bottom right, you don't have any exemptions. You still have an opportunity to file for them. We want you to get the exemptions you're entitled to, okay, under the law. So we try to remind you. All right. Little bit of a public service announcement on what's available on our website. Buyer and seller fact sheet. I talked about this a little earlier. Buying a home, you can pull these documents right off our website. It tells you about the cap reset and the higher taxes the January 1 after you buy. Selling a home, same thing. Are you selling it with or without homestead? That's a big difference. Okay. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube. This presentation will be taped, and you will be able to find it if you want to view it again on YouTube. Correct, Kyle? Or a link from our website? Okay. And please come to our education session. We enjoy seeing you. We enjoy talking to you. We enjoy educating you. That is part of the most important part of our job, is to educate the public about what they can and cannot do with regard to their property, with regard to value, with regard to property taxes. There's some future dates. This is the great service offered by the clerk of the court. Okay, we show this in every seminar. There is lately there's a preponderance of fraudulent deeds. Okay, we catch them as soon as possible, but you can register yourself, your name, okay, with the clerk of the court for free. And if anything is filed in your name, okay, with the clerk of the court, and that's where deeds are filed, okay, they will send you an alert on text message, email, whatever you so choose. I've gotten a few myself, but one of them happened to be a notice of commencement. I was getting some work done on my property. If the permit value is over a certain dollar, that contractor has to file a notice of commencement to protect themselves. Well, that was filed. I look, oh yeah, that's mine. But you will get an alert. I mean, even if it's even close to your name. I've gotten alerts for Kevin P. McKeon, even though I'm Kevin J. McKeon. It's a great service. because you get a first shot of getting that very quickly and not finding out about it months later.
Verify that. We had storm shutters put on our house about 4 months ago. And within a week, I got a notice from.
Notice of commencement and satisfaction of mortgage. If you pay off your mortgage company files a satisfaction of mortgage. That gets filed, you get an alert. It's a great service. And that concludes the presentation today.
How do you get that protection? Or if somebody files, what do? You register with
You go to the clerk of the court.
circuit court.
You go to Pinellas County Clerk of the Court. If you want to, it's property fraud alert. You can go right on their website. You can see it. It takes 3 minutes to register yourself. It's a very, very simple process.
In your newsletter about a year or two ago, you had a link. Newsletter.
We have a link on our website to it too. You can find it on our website as well. Yep. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for joining online. Any questions, Kyle, online? Thank you all. We appreciate you. Have a great day.